This is Laura Ellis here of TransitionsLiaison.com. This podcast audio's topic is regarding how we create and destroy love. You see, the consequences of resisting in relationships is actually the nature of love and relationships. Well, what do I mean by that? Love by itself is never enough to have a relationship work. The divorce courts are full of people who love each other. And for example, what good is someone's love for you if the person treats you poorly? To have a relationship be great, you need more than love. You need the experience of love. If I wanted my relationship with a significant other to be great, I need to make sure that that person feels loved. When the experience of love is present, you are happy and alive. You feel good about yourself. You're positive, confident, and creative. And I'm sure you've noticed that. Ultimately, this is the happiness that we all seek. This is what we want in our relationships and in our lives. So the question now is, what creates the experience of love? It's created by giving acceptance and appreciation. I'm going to say it again. The experience of love is created by giving acceptance and appreciation. Notice how you feel when someone genuinely accepts and appreciates you. Think about it for a moment. You know it feels good. Of course it feels good. You feel empowered. You feel better about yourself and better about life. You also feel better about the other person. And without thinking, you automatically become more accepting and appreciative of the person who accepts you. The same thing happens when you accept and appreciate someone else. That person feels better about life and better about you. Then you feel better about the other person, and the other person feels better about you. My goodness, it almost sounds like a comedy act from years ago, the way I put it out there to you, but it actually is the truth. After a bit, and you practice this, or you recognize it in the relationship that you currently have, you'll soon create a cycle of loving, supporting, and empowering each other. This cycle of love brings out the best in people and creates the happiness that we seek in our relationships. When you give acceptance and appreciation, you create the experience of love. I'm saying it again. We learn by repetition. And the great things that happen from the experience of acceptance and appreciation. This is the way most romantic relationships begin. Think about that for a minute. They start out great, but they seldom stay that way. And this is because sooner or later, someone's hurt from the past gets triggered. When this happens, the person feels threatened. In an attempt to avoid feeling this hurt, the person puts up his or her walls of protection. Then the person becomes judgmental, critical, and otherwise non-accepting. It's this non-acceptance that destroys the experience of love. Notice how you feel when someone is judgmental and critical towards you. Instantly, the experience of love disappears. You get hurt and upset. You put up your walls of protection and automatically resist the person who is not accepting toward you. And not accepting toward you could encompass a lot of different avenues. Being abusive, stonewalling, which I refer to as it's actually a term, when someone ignores you, they just ignore you and continue to do so. It's a bad feeling. The same thing happens when you're non-accepting, judgmental, or critical towards someone else. That person gets upset, puts up his or her walls of protection, and becomes more judgmental and critical towards you. Then you get more upset at the other person, and then the other person gets more upset with you. Without knowing, you're creating a cycle of conflict, a cycle of hurting, attacking, and withdrawing from each other. This cycle then goes on and on and on without either person ever noticing his or her role in the problem. It's the cycle of conflict that creates the suffering in relationships. Knowing what I know, being trained in hypnosis, operating as a transformational life coach, my specialty is actually in relationships. I know that a lot of this comes from past childhood conditioning. And the true way, the one true way to stop conflict in relationships or in your life at all, in all areas, addictions, no matter what it is by access to the subconscious mind. Hypnosis is a powerful tool, and I highly recommend it. And certainly would be more than happy to talk to any of you about that as I offer a free consultation. But getting back to how we create and destroy love, when we resist the way someone is, you destroy the experience of love. You then create opposition and resistance against yourself. Okay, I'm going to say that again. When you resist the way someone is, when you're not accepting of the way someone is, you destroy the experience of love. It may not be all at once, it may be a little bit at a time. But you will create opposition and resistance also against yourself. And to end that cycle of conflict, or to make sure it never starts, you must stop the resisting. How do you do that? By acceptance. The cycle of conflict is like a tennis volley. It takes two people to keep the volley going, but only one to end it. As soon as someone refuses to return the serve, the volley's over. To end the cycle of conflict in relationships, stop fueling the fire. Accept the person the way he or she is, as difficult as it may be. It doesn't necessarily mean you were meant to be together. But what we're looking to do here is to avoid destroying love and avoid destroying self-love, for that matter. Think about that for a minute. So once again, to end the cycle of conflict, you stop fueling the fire. Accept the person the way he or she is, for this is key to having any relationship work, to have any relationship last. Unfortunately, this is much easier said than done, and I realize that. Some people are very difficult to accept, as I mentioned a few moments ago. But fortunately, acceptance is nothing more than surrendering to the truth. The people in your life are exactly the way that they are, whether you like it or not. So what do? Perhaps you should choose someone in your life that you can't accept. And you say, what? What are you talking about, Laura? Picking someone in your life that you can't accept, notice that this person has a very particular state of mind and a very particular way of seeing life. Notice that this person is exactly the way he or she is, and that your feelings about it are totally irrelevant. And I'm quite sure that you've never thought about things that way. But when you're at peace with the truth of the way someone is, and let me go back for a minute. I'm not suggesting that you, deliberately go out and choose someone to be in relationship with that you can't accept, but merely as an exercise and to see how different you may look at this individual. So if it's a friend or an acquaintance rather, just for a few moments, pick that person in and know that you can't accept them, and notice how this person has their own way, their own state of mind, and a way of seeing life that doesn't necessarily agree with yours. Notice that this person is exactly the way he or she is, and that your feelings about he or her are totally irrelevant, because they are. When you're at peace with the truth of the way someone is, you will have peace of mind, and you will be able to see the situation that you're in with that individual most clearly. And you might just discover that that person isn't for you. And maybe you need to move on. Maybe you need to do something else. But by being at peace with the truth, you will be able to see and know what to do and gather some strength to do it. This is Laura Ellis, certified past life therapist with transitionsliaison.com. If you'd like to discuss your challenges any further, feel free to contact me, and you may do so through my website or through the message center here where you've obtained this free audio podcast. For now, I wish you all well, and remember always, knowledge is power. Thank you for listening.